willing to make any sacrifice to bring it to here. She's like a monkey virus and will infect you and bleed you dry after you've given her too much personal information. I feel like she was worshiping the devil.
Me or Courtney?
Courtney.
I don't know. Maybe she needs an exorcism. Maybe that's the one thing that will help with her. Maybe her soul has been taken over by an outside entity that causes her to do irrational, impulsive things and makes her really, really ambitious.
Right.
Damn. So, writing these things, you don't have you anticipated crossing paths with, like, Courtney?
Exactly.
You know, it's funny because when I had to write about her because she was such a pivotal person, not only for the time, but a lot of the stories that I had, there was some intersection.
Yeah.
And it would have been dishonest to leave it out. And if you're going to put it in, you have to put it in. Like, you have to be honest about it because it's really lame when people write a memoir and they only want to write the good stuff. Yeah, you have to write about your vulnerability, you have to write about your failings, and you have to write about people who drive you crazy.
Right. Because talk about that love triangle that you had to kind of deal with her and your friends.
What happened? There was a love triangle?
There was such a love triangle that I knew was going to turn into a love hunk of dog crap.
Okay.
I mean, this was just a tragedy waiting to happen. So she had a way of getting inside people's heads and pants. And I don't know what she's shooting out of her cooter.
Yeah.
But it is some intoxicating substance or experience. So the one person I thought was impervious to her charms was Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails.
Yes.
And because he was a tough nut to crack romantically. And Courtney somehow, she got into his fortress, and by that I mean his leather pants. And they started dating, and Trent and I were very good friends. So he called me from the road with her. I didn't know that she was listening on the phone in the same room, and he starts telling me that, you know, what a great person she is, and I was like, get out now! There's someone who's on the phone right now! Leave! You know, like a horror movie, you know, you're just shouting at the screen, and no one can hear you because it's a movie, and he wouldn't listen, and so she gets on the phone and starts cackling because I've just made fun of her and told him, like, dude, run, don't walk. And he didn't listen. And I told him, and then, of course, it all went to a puddle of poo, and she put out a press release saying that he had a 1-inch nail. He tried to deny there was ever any romantic interlude, and she went crazy. And so she called me one night, and she's like, I just bought Trent's house in New Orleans. I get a call on the other line. It's Trent's face is Danny Loner. She's like, who are you talking to right now? I was like, dude, you're psychic. I'm talking to Courtney. He's like, hang up now. I was like, no, I'm going to go back and see what she says. And then Trent clicks in like 90 seconds later. It's like, hang up now. She's crazy. Look, oh, wow, this is a familiar conversation. Why didn't you heed my warning, friend?
Yo, damn. Yeah, you guys fraternize. I never had those kind of relationships.
You were news.
Okay.
You had the journalist creed protecting you, so you didn't get involved in these wormholes.
One of the important elements in the case and in convincing the world that it was suicide was the so-called Rome suicide attempt.
Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain, who slipped into a coma and was hospitalized in Rome, Italy at about 6 a.m. this morning, was in a state of what his management calls complete collapse. His condition was apparently aggravated when he consumed champagne on top of a prescription painkiller called Rohypnol.
Now, at the time, the word suicide was never used by the media, by Courtney, by Kurt. It was portrayed as an accidental drug overdose.
He recovered from the coma, and publicists said the incident was an accident, not a suicide attempt.
As soon as Kurt died, first interviews that Courtney gave, she started talking about previous suicide attempts. Rome was a suicide attempt. Courtney started telling people that Kurt had swallowed 60 pills. He swallowed 60 pills, that's not an accident. That's a suicide attempt. So we decided to contact the doctor that treated Kurt in Rome, Dr. Gavetta, and he categorically denied that there were 60 pills in his stomach and that it was a suicide attempt. At the time, Kurt and Courtney both said it was an accident, and the doctor confirmed that. So there's just no evidence that he'd ever tried to kill himself before. No anecdotal evidence, nobody else close to Kurt ever said that he tried to commit suicide, but the world just took Courtney's word for it.
Do you still have all the notes? The note from Rome and the original note here?
Yeah, Detective Cameron gave me back the note from Rome, and he said, I would destroy this if I were you. It's not going to do you any good.
He told you to destroy it?
That's what he said. He said it was the day after Chris's death. I'd been bugging him for the notes back for like
So you got rid of the original notes?
I burned it, and as I was burning it in the fireplace, no, that's the safe deposit box.
But the suicide note from Rome you burnt?
Yeah, and as I was burning it, this huge pop went up, and like, it was just really weird. Everyone ran upstairs. They thought I'd shot myself, and like little pieces of nothing else was
You do still have the note from Seattle, though?
Yeah.
The one that I got a copy of?
Yeah.
You've got that?
It's in a safe deposit box. Okay. It's on red pen, and it's on an IHOP, because I went to the IHOP.
That would help, too, to be analyzed. We could determine whether Kurt wrote that whole thing.
She'd become very depressed and withdrawn following her time at the house just before Kurt died. I asked her what was so strange in those last weeks.
There was just way too much will talk. A few different times, major will talk, just talking about his will.
What kind of points?
Courtney talking about his will. And what thing to talk about.
And was this just sort of prior to his?
Yeah, I mean, the month that I was up there was like, I came home for what, a week, and then he died. I quit. I had quit for like a week.
Why did you quit?
Because I couldn't stand it up there.
What did you think of Kurt himself? I heard he was a very caring father.
Yeah. More caring than he was let to be. She just totally controlled him every second that she could.
What do you think he wanted?
To get away from Courtney. And I think he just didn't have a way because she...
Why do you think if you love Francis so much and the family was so important, why do you think he killed himself?
Sure that he killed himself.
There you go. There you go. That's one thing.
Who do you think? Do you think someone else might have killed him? Or?
No, I don't know. I think if he wasn't murdered, he was driven to murdering himself.
This is the actual recording of Dylan and Tom Grant searching for Kurt on April the 7th in the middle of the night.
Hey, just open the door for me. Kurt? Kurt? Hello? Hello, Kurt? I'm going to follow you through here because you know where everything is. Does this go up another story? Yeah, this is
Kurt's body was in the greenhouse above the garage. Tom Grant believes Dylan deliberately avoided showing him the greenhouse.
What? I mean, if you were his best man, didn't say being suicidal, prowling, that Rome was He never said anything about anything wrong. You know, maybe Tom Roth's right.
But I mean, he doesn't have to say anything about it. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, when you're friends with someone, there's like subtle forms.
So what is his son?
I don't think he was necessarily like planning to kill himself at that point. I mean, if he had been like totally suicidal from the outset, he would have used the gun that day probably or something. You know what I mean? Why did he like go down and try to kill himself? Well, because there was all the fucking pressure on him to go through treatment. You know, his wife telling him he needs to go through treatment. His record company, his management, you know, all like, oh, you have to get off drugs. So he goes and he tries to get off drugs. He can't do it. He doesn't want to. It's like physically he doesn't want to. There's no reason for him not to get off. There's no reason for him to get off drugs.
But how was Courtney trying to get off drugs when she was on the team?
I don't know, because she was the one, because she was all gung-ho for him to quit. I mean, they were both constantly like, I mean, you know, trying to hide it from one another. I mean, there was like the most ridiculous example is one time Kurt called me up to get him some speed, and then the other line rang, and they answered the other line, and it was Courtney asking me to get her dope, and both of them were like, oh, don't let the other one know.
What about his relationship with Courtney?
Obviously, I mean, obviously it was going through some turbulence.
I don't know what I think about the whole murder.
Put it this way, if I seriously thought Kurt had been murdered, the people, if I thought Courtney was involved, or if I thought, you know, they would be dead, flat out. I would kill them.
Don't you think it's curious that Courtney said, well, she was really so worried about it? She really had Courtney was suicidal. But she didn't want to see it.
Feel about the note?
I don't think he really feels exactly the same way. He didn't write it.
Yeah.
I feel the same way I felt when I read it. He didn't write it. That doesn't mean, you know, that could mean any one of a number of things.
Right.
But in my mind, I don't think he wrote that note.
See, I feel...
It's not the top part of it.
Yeah, I feel the same way, although I won't be surprised if we find out that he did write it. But that still doesn't necessarily mean it's a suicide note to me.
Right.
Los Angeles police announced that Kurt Cobain's widow, Courtney Love, had been arrested last week on drug charges, the day before Cobain's body was found in Seattle. On April 7th, paramedics were notified of an apparent overdose at LA's Peninsula Hotel, and when they arrived at Love's room, they found drug paraphernalia and notified police.
The note, Kurt Cobain's final gasp of poetry, written in a dense hand. The first part of the note may be addressed to his fans. The worst crime I could think of would be to rip people off by faking it. Then the last 5 lines, now addressed to Cobain's wife and daughter. The writing veers and magnifies. Keep going, Courtney, for Francis. And ends, I love you, with poignant finality.
When I picked up that note and read it, it sounded phony to me.
Didn't it sound terribly phony?
It sounded like a set-up letter.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about the note?
I don't think he wrote. I feel exactly the same way. He didn't write it.
Yeah.
I feel the same way I felt when I read it. He didn't write it. That doesn't mean, that could mean any one of a number of things.
Right.
But in my mind, I don't think he wrote that note.
See,
it's not the top part of it.
Yeah, I feel the same way, although I won't be surprised if we find out that he did write it. But that still doesn't necessarily mean it's a suicide note to me.
Right.
The letter just didn't make sense.
Cobain's alleged suicide note with copies of 2 pages of lyrics handwritten by Cobain. Matley believes the bulk of the note was written by Cobain, but finds the last 4 lines questionable.
As to the last 4 lines, there are more than a dozen differences that should give us pause, and we would have to reasonably explain these differences before we can conclude that the same person wrote the 4 lines that wrote the body of it.
Handwriting expert Reginald Alton of Oxford University also compared copies of Cobain's handwriting to a copy of the note. In a 5-page written report, Alton pointed out more than a dozen discrepancies. Alton believes the bulk of the suicide note was written by Cobain, but raises questions about the first line and the last 4 lines. His report concludes, quote, there are many indications that there may have been a second hand at work.
Says Cobain had been dead for at least 24 hours. His body was discovered today by an electrician who was at the house to install a security system.
He was fully clothed. There was a note. There was a planter that had been dumped upside down in the dirt and ripped all of it, and it was laying there on the counter with a full-size sheet of paper. The pin stuck to it that was was a suicide note, apparently, from what the officer said.
Did you get a chance to read it?
I only read the bottom lines on it. The bottom 2 lines said, I love you to someone.
The full details of that apparent suicide note have not been released.
What can you say about the mentors on Mystic or the mentors on Death?
More of a Mystic fan. I used to see them at the cafe. We spent some time with El Duce. You know how they found El Duce.
Dead?
Found him dead, with no head.
I did not know that.
He found him on train tracks, with his head on one side and his body on the other.
Committed suicide?
No, we probably don't.
And you are fat?
Fat Mike.
What can you say about the mentors on Mystic or the mentors on Death?
More of a Mystic fan. I used to see them at the cafe. We spent some time with El Duce. You know how they found El Duce.
Dead?
Found him dead, with no head.
I did not know that.
Yes. He found him on train tracks, with his head on one side and his body on the other.
Committed suicide?
No, it's Courtney Love.
And you are fat?
Fat Mike.
See, that's how I met Courtney Love. My guitar player used to go out with her drummers. Basically, I hadn't seen her, for a couple of years until she came by the rock shop that one night before New Year's Eve. Jumped out of the limo and came walking up to the door where I was standing. She goes, "Hey, Duce, I need to talk to you. It's real important." And I go, "What is it?" She goes, "You know, my old man, Kurt, he's been a real lately, and I think he's planning on dumping me." And then she goes, "Listen, I need you to blow his head off. I'll give you $50,000. And I go, "What? Are you serious?" She goes, "I'm serious as a heart attack." I said, "Well, I'm serious if you are." And then we had a tour come up. And I took off to go on tour. And while I was on tour, she called me here looking for me and spoke to Seth. He told her I was on the road. Apparently, right after she called looking for me, about a week later, Kurt was found dead with his head blown off.
The polygrapher I consider to be extremely reliable, extremely credible. And when I sat down with him, I said, is there any way this guy could have cheated, could have faked this polygraph, could have passed it, or failed it, or whatever, manipulated the polygraph to falsify the results? And his response to me is, no, not this guy.
I actually know the actual killer that killed Kurt Cobain, named Alan Ranch.
That's interesting. Why are we stuck on a 50 grand? You told me your studio's worth 50 grand. Gucci was offered 50 grand. What's with the 50 grand?
That's probably one of those numbers that just comes up a lot. Like when you play craps, 7 keeps coming up. With rock, 50 grand keeps coming up for some reason. The trick is, as with killing people, don't get caught. It's a nice little assassination. Yeah. Perfect assassination looks like suicide. Cops were a little suicide.
But you think it looked like suicide? You think it really added up to suicide? It seemed physically impossible to put away his heroin tip and shot himself in the mouth with the amount of heroin.
He probably had a pretty high tolerance. Plus, if you had him a little bit incapacitated just so his heart's pumping, you can pump a little bit of heroin into him. It wouldn't be that big of a deal.
But his heart pumping is not going to send the heroin a lot faster and actually kill him a lot faster.
No, I don't think so. As long as he's in there, that's all you need. The guy shoots up, gets a little depressed, sticks a shotgun in his mouth. As long as the shotgun blast removes part of the neck so any kind of marks on his neck put on there by someone else. as long as those are erased, it looks like a nice little clean suicide.
What Courtney Love involved in death?
I would have to
by assisted suicide or having him killed?
I would have to say that I have no comment on that. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what she says when we just that way.
Opinion, brother. Hypothesis. There's no incriminating.
My opinion is that she's a very talented and intelligent person, and probably would never say anything that would get her into trouble. That's what I would say about Courtney Love on the Cobain thing.
Your personal take on the process of her career from the time he passed on to now.
Well,
aided or hurt by the fact that Kurt died?
Oh, it helped all the way, because she was going to get divorced.
Right.
He was kicking. She already didn't live there. She wouldn't have got anything in the settlement. She wouldn't have got her movie career. And actually, the money she has now isn't lasting that long anyway. So
everything that you're saying right now points to the fact that she very likely could have been involved in his demise, and it would have benefited greatly. Because if he would have lived and lasted a lot longer,
she would have been on the straight. Yeah, she would have been out in front of. She would have
been playing the drums on the little.
Yeah, she would have been playing. Yeah, she would have been playing the probably like hitchhiking to get to pick up on John's and singing and tap dancing in front of 10,000 guitars and a rock. She would have been in a concert throwing rock and tape. She'd probably be in my bedroom sucking about she got my big Lexus. Speaking of the possibly.
Speaking of the Lexus, where did the 50 grand come to just drop?
Oh, Courtney gave it to me for Long Way Cobain. Oh, I can't believe I just slipped up like that. Oh God. What I meant to say is from a business venture. Right. But hey, as long as I get rich and go home drunk plus every night, I'm happy about the whole thing. And here's the greatest thing. I'll never be tried or convicted for the murders of Kurt Cobain or El Duce. Never.
Anybody complaining about Buzz talking about Montage of Heck because he's telling the truth about it all. The thing is that you can't really bullshit a bullshitter, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's not here to defend himself. You know, we are.
And that's the whole thing with his review, was defending our friend who was dead.
Yeah, I can't quite figure out what people have a problem with. They want Cobain to be suicidal. You know, they want that. They would feel better. If he was suicidal, he'd feel better.
I have a feeling that the director looks at it as some sort of art piece rather than something that's based in fact, you know. And I don't know, people never really believe us anyway when we tell the truth about that stuff. But I mean, you know, we knew him really well. I was in the band, more or less, you know.
It's just weird to me that anyone would defend this stuff that I'm mad about. That's crazy.
And who are you going to believe? Somebody that knew him really well or somebody that didn't know him at all? We don't have any monetary gain from saying any of this stuff at all.
I mean, I gained nothing from this, you know, other than saying, you know, I was contacted and contracted to write a review of it. So
that's what it was.
That's the review.
You know, and you know, not that I'd expect it, but none of the people that had anything to do with the film bothered to get a hold of us. They probably don't even know that my parents are in the movie.
I mean, his daughter wasn't even there. And Courtney, nobody believes Courtney. Why would you? Would you?
Occupy Courtney.
Occupy Courtney.
But you know, all those stories about Cobain and those guys have always been BS.
That's BS.
But you know, it's better than the truth anyway.
I'm Norm Stamper. I was a police officer for 34 years. The last 6 from 1994 to 2000 at Seattle's police chief. I wouldn't pretend that there aren't police officers who are cynical and suspicious and skeptical. that was the case in the Kurt Cobain death.
For the past 50 years, as a medical legal forensic pathology consultant, I've been involved in thousands of cases, about 18,000 autopsies, and I reviewed, signed off, or supervised, and evaluated about 38,000 other autopsies.
I have personally investigated, supervised, consulted, and researched on over 8,000 homicides. I wrote Practical Homicide Investigation because there was a need for a standard protocol to approach all death scenes.
From the very beginning, everything that the detectives encountered indicated to them that this was a suicide.
The decision to rule the case by police the same day and to make a public pronouncement that this was a suicide is not the way good police agencies would function today.
As a homicide commander, I would not be making any proclamations that the case was a suicide without the evidence having been processed, the victimology, the medical legal process, toxicology. It's a death investigation.
They knew nothing about the drug level. They knew nothing about fingerprints. They knew nothing about anything else at that time except that they had found him with a shotgun.
The reason we call things death investigations is that we don't want to prematurely make them homicides, suicides, or accidents. It's a death investigation.
Cases that involve prominent figures. These cases usually take more time because you know that there are going to be more questions. People are going to know every single thing about it. In the Philip Seymour Hoffman case, they found him with a needle in his arm. They found 50 bags of heroin right there in his apartment, and yet they did not make any announcement beyond that. They knew that they should not be commenting. Official statements as to cause and manner of death do not come from police or even homicide detectives. They do not.
The toxicology report from Kurt Cobain's autopsy indicated a heroin blood level of 1.52 milligrams per liter.
5 milligrams will produce a level of 0.035 milligrams.
Most users, even heavy users, only use up to 40 or 60 milligrams in one hit.
So you can see, to reach 1.52 milligrams per liter, you're talking about an amount that would certainly have exceeded 200 milligrams that were injected into Kurt Cobain.
3 times the amount that would be considered lethal. I think very legitimate questions have been raised about the level